And I want to make sure.
Great.
Very nice. Lovely. Okay. So it's all good. It's all good to go. But do you have anything to add about wildfires?
Just that California is capable of managing their forests like they do around the world. So to avoid these kind of fires, they think it's more environmentally sound to, so in the past, they've thought a lot of times it's more environmentally sound to leave it alone and let it burn and all that. But that's not conducive when you have people that are living near fire zones, et cetera. Now you have to play the role the government should play, and that's to protect them against that. Now, we can have very vibrant forests, we can have vibrant coastal biomes, and we can have safe populations. This is one of the things that I would embody with this California Conservation Corps Alliance. Can you imagine 100,000 youth every year that are dedicated to wetlands restoration, to increasing flow to the Pacific, to increasing tree cover by planting the trees, et cetera, and to creating fire breaks and clearing brush around residential areas and areas prone to fire? That's what I would do with that organization. And it would all be private sector. It would not be state run. The state would only design the program and the private sector would bid on it and manage it.
Are you suggesting canceling the high-speed rail project at all and relocating the funds for tax cuts purposes?
Absolutely. And the reason is this. Mass transit as a concept, first of all, this is very interesting to me because governments are never visionary. It's very rare government's visionary about something. People within them can be visionary, but most of the time that's not what happens. You have a program here where the state's going to be the owner of a high-speed rail and manage it and do all that. Well, gives me cold sweats. But here's the thing. It's a boondoggle. It's something that we're way over budget. It's taken many years and we don't even have any track laid, but that's not the issue. The issue is look at the future of personal transportation. There are now over 20 companies making eVTOLs. What's an eVTOL, you ask? Vertical takeoff and landing vehicles. And the E is just if they're electric or not. Now, if you've had a chance to see on the internet or anything, these they're fantastic, and there's a lot of venture capital going into it. There's a lot of companies making prototypes, and there's even companies that are already to market. Joby, a California company which did all their R&D in California and just signed a big agreement to open their first plant, manufacturing in Ohio, of all places, because Ohio gave them a better deal. California, even though they're from here, they could not afford to manufacture here. This is something that is the future of transportation. Now, you've had experience in and around Los Angeles. You know what traffic does in rush hour traffic. Well, California loses just an incredible amount of money and lost productivity per year. I've seen estimates as high as $30 to $40 billion a year in lost productivity. That's because rush hour traffic, you can be stuck in a car for a long time trying to get somewhere, and people have to go back forth to work, et cetera. If you can imagine a VTOL where you have the airways, you don't have the cost of building roads and maintaining roads, and you get from point A to point B much quicker because air routes would be much more efficient. And if we look down the road, again, 25 years, which I consider a generation, that's where transportation is going to be. And Californians like, because of the size of the state, personal transportation that takes them to where they want to go. That train, for me to get from like Los Angeles to San Francisco, it was going to have like 27 stops. Well, guess what? And that just takes a lot of time, and maybe you're not going to one of those 27 points, and maybe you have to go somewhere, and then you have to go somewhere else on another. And so it doesn't coincide with what we want, which is direct personal transportation under our own control. And by the way, it wouldn't cost anywhere near the money. And I think that program should be closed. It should be sold off if possible, if it's worth anything to anybody. And we should suspend development of it, because I do think that it is something that California with its $1.25 trillion of debt, should not engage in something on a project like that where it's just a black hole of money and it's government run and it's inefficient, et cetera. We should not have that project. Instead, we should invite VTOL companies to locate in California with tax breaks and everything else and create an industry here and be the world leader in that new mode of transportation. Also a national issue. It's so informed by national issues. So the government got into the health insurance business. And I worked in healthcare as a salesperson for a good few years, several times in my life. And I watched in the early 80s as DRGs, diagnostic related groups, came into vogue because the US government with Medicare was deciding what they were going to compensate for what procedures, et cetera. Well, now since 1982, many procedures are 3 or 4 times higher in real dollars, counting for inflation, than they were back then. We need to have a healthcare system that serves all of the population, including those that are young, starting out, et cetera. But it should not be a government healthcare system. It should be a private healthcare system. And that's my libertarian philosophy in action there, and also my experience having worked in healthcare for a long time. I do not think, though, that I think the market is the answer. Although there are individuals, young people, invalid people, people that are affected, that have disabilities, et cetera, that might need help. And that kind of help, I don't have a categorical answer because there's so many answers out there and they're all fighting with each other right now. But I do know that my tendency is to prefer private providers and private health providers that they don't have to have full-time insurance experts or several in their offices just to get paid. It should be something way simpler, way less expensive, and way less bureaucratic.
So just to make a link with social benefits and social programs in California, and for the record, so the Libertarian Party is not a socialist party per se, as much as I would say the Green Party then.
I don't know much about the Green Party because they're different in every country. I know more about them in Mexico than I do here, but the Libertarian Party is for freedom, for individual freedom, for limited government. Parties that are within like a progressive realm of politics, or the government is everything. They dictate all kinds of things, what kind of stove you have to have, what kind of car you have to drive by when, and all kinds of things. That kind of overreach should never be the role of government. We've created a monstrosity, and the government is not serving its people, it's serving itself. And I think we need to radically revise that so that we can be a state that can embrace the technological revolution that's coming. And that technological revolution is here already with AI and robotics and eVTOLs and modular homes and fusion power and desalination, et cetera, et cetera. We cannot afford to miss this technological revolution. We have to be the leaders in it, but we will never get there if we're the highest cost of living state in the country. We have to lower that. We have to attract young people and businesses. We have to become business friendly, and we have to get off our high horse telling people what to do on values that are personal values, but they're not governmental values.
And talking about personal values, Tom, what's your message for Christians voters regarding women's rights, abortion, transgender issues, which is another area that, some people may be sensitive to, all sorts of point of view. But do you embrace one major point of view regarding these issues, women's rights, and especially Christian women's rights?
On the contrary, I mean, I'm the father of 4 children. My son died 5.5 years ago, but I have 3 grown daughters, and they're I'm incredibly close to, and they're amazing women. They also played in sports. And so I also have 2 very good friends that are trans. And and I love them to death. When somebody asks me about rights, I do not believe that, for example, biological males should compete in women's sports. That should be for women, and biological females are not capable of competing with biological males on the same level playing field, and they should not be. Women's sports should not be compromised by biological males participating in that. But as far as the rights of trans, I think they have the same exact rights as every other human being in the world. They should have the right to and the freedom to live their life as they see fit, according to how they feel and according to what they believe. And I support that 100%. They shouldn't be prejudiced against, but they shouldn't be accommodated in ways that prejudice and violate the rights of others either. And that's where I stand on that.
And do you know that today the Olympics division, and the board just ruled that transgender, they ban athletes that are basically, have male hormones as young.
Right. As far as your question on abortion, personally, I believe we don't know what life's about yet. Everybody's got their interpretation that we all understand. We all have something different, but nobody has that, and nobody has the monopoly on that or has it in a box. So personally, I'm big on adoption. I'm big on all kinds of alternative ways that lives can be preserved. I believe in life. It's part of everything I've ever done. At the same time, I also believe that given the issue, I don't like it personally, but I don't want to superimpose my personal value, my personal principle on a general population. I think it's for everybody to make their choice and where they stand. I may not like it. I support groups that have alternatives, but I also respect the fact that it's something that everybody needs to decide for themselves based on how they believe.
Perfect. Now, as we move toward the end of our interview, we must address homelessness in California because California has approximately 200,000 people experiencing homelessness, and it is the highest in the nation right now. So could you elaborate on your solve housing for all proposal?
Well, my son was homeless at times. He was addicted. He developed schizophrenia at the age of 20 years old. And before that, he was my oldest. He was my only son, and he was a genius kid. He spoke 4 languages. He was a very good athlete. He was a computer whiz and a mechanical whiz, etc. But because he at times lived on the street in the 18 years since he was sick before he passed away, I had to walk to find him through 2 different U.S. cities and 1 Mexico city, Tijuana, and I found him among thousands of homeless each time. From that experience, I would tell you that the homeless population, oftentimes, depending on the studies that you read, is up to 75% addicted to substances. So you cannot talk about that problem without also talking about what's happened. It's caused so much of our population to be addicted to very powerful drugs that they can't get out from under. Now, there's also a lot of people on the street that are homeless that have underlying mental issues. This is what's called a dual diagnosis, like what my son had. And I could cite chapter and verse of going through rehabilitation and halfway homes and lawyers and doctors and hospitals and police and court and all that. And all I can say is that I've come up with a program, which I call, one part of the program is called Joshua's Law. Joshua is my son. And I say that if you are found camping on a city sidewalk or a city street and you don't have a home and you're intoxicated or you're drugged, that there's a compulsory 90-day detoxification. You're apprehended and you're committed to 90 days of detox and analysis review and a complete comprehensive evaluation to determine what exactly are your issues. Is it drugs? Is it an underlying mental condition? Is it a physical ailment? Is it poverty? Is it strictly poverty? Because there's another 25% to 30% of the homeless population that are literally out of gas and they don't have options, and they've gotten to the point where they're living out of their cars, etc. Each of those would require a different approach. You can't use the same approach for all of them. The ones that are intoxicated need to go into detox, something I could never get done under US law with my son. I could never have him committed to detox. But if I could have, that would have gone a long way towards me helping him. And I tried everything possible. Like, that's a long story. So secondly, I also, on the housing revolution, am proposing that we immediately embrace modular and mini homes. Modular and mini homes are, they've come online. We could create a whole new home product category. They're very good. They're much better built than like a mobile home or something like that. And so by instituting the development of that in our state, what would happen is we would have to, we could invite companies to come to the state to build their modular mini home factories here, give them tax breaks, and have them be part of the new economy. We could produce the 3.5 million home shortage that we have in California in record time doing that. Who's the market for those homes? It's the elderly, it's the unhoused immigrants, it's people that are too poor, and it's way less expensive than what the state has been spending on the homeless that needed just shelter. Shelter alone will not solve most of the problems of homeless people, but it will solve the problems of a subset of that. And I believe that also it would be a market for Gen Zers. Can you imagine if they could get a home in an area that they like, and their home payment is $275 a month? That would open it up for a lot of people that now are living 5 and 6 to an apartment and can't find the right jobs and can't save enough money, etc. There's also quite a few companies building these, and they're amazing. I lived in a home for 5 years that was only 690 square feet. Yeah. Now, I had fruit trees and I had 3/4 of an acre, but at the same time, that's how big the home was. And I can say you can do that very comfortably, especially if you're alone.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear about your son.
Thank you. Thank you.
But moving forward, you just mentioned something that I just want to follow up, and then we can move to the next question, which is the homeless in California living in cars, inside cars. It's all over LA. It's all over San Francisco. Now it's small and medium-sized towns in California. So is this surreal, It's
very real. We have 1/3 of the homeless of all the United States. About 185,000 is the estimate. And the thing is, if you look at the trend, it was going down from 2005 to 2011, and then came online these opiates, these manufactured opiates, and fentanyl and crystal meth being produced at such cheap rates that what happened? The homeless population went up. It's a direct result of addiction. And so I'm saying you can't live on California streets. It impacts businesses. It impacts safety. It causes crime in the areas where they live. It impacts sanitation. So nobody has the right to move onto a sidewalk, which was never designed for that, and to camp there. They would be consigned to a detoxification, an analysis, and then channeled into programs. Some people will never be able to do much better than what they can do. They have health issues, they have mental issues, they have issues where they need help, but they're not going to be able to get out of the circumstances themselves, ever. Some can be rehabilitated. Many can be rehabilitated and have normal lives if they took the right steps. And we need to be smart, but we need to channel them into programs, and it will cost way less than what we've been spending on the homeless population in the last 6-7 years. Like, it's incredible what we've spent per head.
So, John, would you say that, in short, in a nutshell, is California becoming Latin America in a way? I mean, because you live in Mexico, now we have people living in the streets and inside cars, that is surreal, and like you said, it's not secure for anybody, you know.
The ones who have the problem, because if somebody comes and camps on a sidewalk now, especially in California, they take care of them. They give them money. They have benefits for them. Sometimes they give them syringes to shoot up with. They give them food stamps and credit, and sometimes hotel rooms at $300 a night and all that. That doesn't solve the problem. It only amplifies it. People that are addicted are just looking for a place they can live out their life addicted and as high as possible. And that's typically that brings them when they lose all their friends and family, no more support system. They end up on a city street somewhere getting high with a whole group of others doing the same thing, and supported a lot of times by crime. A lot of times it's they're sick, it's unsafe, etc. And that is the problem.
Yes. Now, last but not least, Governor Newsom, thumbs up or thumbs down?
You know, Havah, I made it a conscious decision. This polarity in our politics and in our society, I stand against. I think we need to be able to reach across any gap that exists and get rid of I call it the outrage industrial complex, which is the media and social media. What it is every day creating a new crisis and an outrage that the other side has perpetrated against your side and whatever your constituency is. And people get ginned up. They hate each other. They don't want to talk to each other. They want to do away with them. And all that is doing is ginning up a division, which we can't handle. We don't need the division when we're trying to envision the optimal future for everybody. And in envisioning an optimal future for everybody, all Californians, I don't care if you're trans, I don't care where you came from, I don't care what language your parents speak or you speak, for all of us, we need to ditch the divide. We need to cancel that divide between us, and we need to start reaching out and working together. And by the way, showing a word that is now very out of vogue, but it wasn't in the 60s in the revolution, that is love. We need to understand that we're all fellow human beings, and the one thing we have in common is our future. And we need to be smart about it, and we need to be aggressive about it. We need to work on it together. So I'll decline. I'm talking about policy and not people.
Good. Well, I wish you the best of luck in this upcoming election. It was an honor to meet you and to connect with you in a very meaningful way. Thank you so much for your time, and good luck.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it, Havah. Have a good day now.
You too. Thank you. So now I will just stop recording. Thank you.